First Nations and Europeans each had a strong tradition of making treaties before they met. European nations used their written tradition of treaty making. First Nations, the oral tradition. They used them to settle conflict, avoid conflict, and to solidify political and economic alliances, nation to nation. Treaty making between the First Nations and the Europeans was one piece of culture they had in common. It seemed to work well. By the end of the 19th century, both sides agreed to continue the treaty tradition when Britain wanted to develop the West for agriculture. Treaties with First Nations were the cornerstone of Sir John A. Macdonald's national policy. Canada wanted to secure the land for peaceful settlement in order to develop the West for agriculture, assert sovereignty on Rupert's Land to prevent annexation by the United States, and avoid the American model of a costly war with First Nations. From 1874 to 1906, 5 numbered treaties were made in what eventually became Saskatchewan. These represented separate agreements with different First Nations. The First Nations negotiated many concessions from the British in exchange for legal access to land for agriculture. While each treaty is unique, most First Nations secured deals that covered land, health, education, justice, taxation, annuities, as well as hunting, trapping, and fishing. It was to be a win-win situation. The newcomers would get legal access to the land. The First Nations would be guaranteed land and a right to protect their way of life, while sharing in the economic benefits that the newcomers and the new economy would bring. But our treaty foundation soon developed some very serious cracks.
I wouldn't want to suggest that there aren't points of common interpretation and understanding, because clearly there are. But on many issues, if you look at the historical record, it's quite clear that the two sides to the treaty partnership had quite different ideas. Title is one, sovereignty is another.
And the situation was about to get even worse.